Wonderful.
It's a lot colder in here than it has
It's this building. Sometimes it's freezing, sometimes it's
been.
hot.
Like I walked in, I'm like, ooh, this feels so good, and then I walk in here, it's like refrigerator.
Yeah. That meeting last Tuesday night, people were getting their coats. It was so cold in here.
Really? Maybe it's all the doors.
No, it's a heating system. And it's. Hey, Aaron. Hello.
And I keep my clear. I really thought it was gonna be okay with my.
Well, cold.
How are you?
What's that? We got the book on rental orders by asking what that was. Big one. Good. We're talking a lot about that tonight, but things have kind of quieted down on the building side. Haven't seen a whole lot of activity, and usually this time of year people are kind of get their stuff lined up. And I'm really seeing that. Good afternoon. No, there was probably such a pent up demand in 21, and that kind of pushes the feeling amounts and coming out.
Aaron, I'm going to be doing either next month's meeting via Zoom, or I'm going to be absent from the meeting.
You can watch the meeting,
But I know I can't vote.
you can't vote, because they didn't extend that legislation.
Carl, I appreciate it, you got a chance to watch, but I understand. Yeah, thank you.
Are you gonna be somewhere warm?
Someplace warmer than here.
Good.
With soft shell crabs and cold beer.
Awesome, it's pretty good.
We're going to a little place called St. Simon's Island. And it's one of the Golden Isles, and you've got Jekyll Island, you've got St. Simon's, and there's 3 islands in the area. And it is so much like Boyne City, it is really amazing. And so we've been going there for a number of years, and so we're going to spend 6 weeks there.
Nice.
That's nice to get finished.
Airbnb?
Actually, it's not an Airbnb, but it is we're renting a condo. And what is incredible is last year we had a Toyota RAV4 for a month instead of 6 weeks. And the cost was a little over $900 for the month. This year, because of the inflated used car prices, all of the rental car companies sold all of their inventory. So the same vehicle is $2,800. So I am going to be playing with Lyft and with Uber. And I don't think I'm going to spend any more money. And last year, the longest trip that we took was up to Savannah, and that was about 70 miles away. I put all of 900 miles on for $900, and so everything is within walking distance. So after working over 20 years for Consumers Energy and being on their beck and call down in Jackson, the last thing I want is windshield time. And so,
For spring break in March, my family and my mom and dad, we're all heading to the Outer Banks.
yeah, so that's just north.
Yeah, I've never been, they've been a few times. And they looked at renting a van, so we could just get a big van and we could just all go together. And it was like $1,500 at the cheapest. And I mean, if we're talking like a week or less. And it's just like, oh, this just, I guess availability, but yeah.
Well, and you know, what's really interesting is that at $2,800 for 6 weeks, they would literally have paid for the RAV4 with no more than 5 or 6 rentals.
Oh, absolutely.
And then everything else is just strictly money.
Yeah.
Gravy. And this is through Canada. And I'm like a gold member there, and this is for pricing it. It's a little on the frustrating side.
Absolutely.
Wasn't there a story of people that U-Hauls, but they couldn't get new cars?
Well, and then we generally, instead of taking 6 weeks is a long time. And
Oh, absolutely.
it's so we normally will have our suitcases and we pack up a box and send it to the UPS store with things like beach towels, Sally's shoes, all of the things that you don't need day one, but you need. And so we picked up 2 smaller boxes instead of this thing that's like this. And I will have it delivered directly to the condo instead of to the UPS store, which is where I had it shipped to.
Good to see you. Good to see everybody.
So it's always interesting.
No, it was unexpected, so I didn't be able, I can't be out that one. I was gonna go, but I was like, even, okay.
So it's back on.
Rotating sinus for.
It's good to look at
Yeah. No, typically regulatory signage.
Jim, I swear that your wife puts more pictures of Augie out there.
Well, it's got, it's the butterfly here, so. How's their basketball?
Not good, right? Well, it's a first year team
Pretty good.
and they're struggling. So, but he's still having fun, for what matters.
All right. You got.
Really good with bars.
I am already, but. Yes. Good.
Great.
Works.
Good.
Happy New Year, everyone.
That we had your usual wonderful display for things.
Yeah, it's just all the time. We got risk and casualties from the weather.
Oh, couple of balls and then you get. Yeah, I have had some fun, some sport. Down again, down in the street.
Yeah.
And meeting from one, 4 times.
Yeah, pretty crew. And I was talking to the snowball guy. And he's an old guy, and he's Carl. 55 years. Or. And these guys are just.
Yeah.
And listen, some guys that stay have. They usually get laid off, but they're going back to work because there's jobs and it's not that bad.
Yeah.
No, I do not. Well, it's better to jump. I had three hours sometimes, but. Yeah. Oh.
Yeah. Yeah. Just fully recovered from the latest knee surgery, so not. It's only her fourth one in 18 months. Yep.
United States. Roll call, please. Here. Here. Here.
Vogel. Here. Ian.
Here.
Wait.
Here.
Ross.
Here.
Ross.
Here. Move on to consent agenda. Everybody's here. So the only thing would be the minutes from November. Accept the minutes as presented. Motion for the minutes be accepted as permitted. Second. Carl seconded. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? All right, let's move on to hearing citizens present on non-agenda items. Don't have anyone here. Move on to reports, officers, boards, standing committees. Scott.
I'll get into this as well as we talk about the annual planning report, but the city commission did adopt the short-term rental ordinance.
Okay.
And we can talk about that more on the next on that agenda item.
All right. All right, we don't have unfinished business. Let's get right into new business. The 2022 Boyne City Planning Report.
As required by the Michigan Neighborhood Planning Act, annual report is required to be completed. So this is that effort, and you may recall it's kind of the same format to wrap up of various projects and the things that we've done over the year. Just an update on a couple of things that are going on at Fox Run. They have a number of units on site, but still they're waiting for the connection to utility before any of those can be occupied. They have all of the roads with the first course paved into the project. They're going to have to put the second course next summer here, and then hopefully they'll finally get that utility question figured out and get some units occupied. The Jervis Web, the Huco plant is complete and they're transitioning into that building. The old facility has been sold to Road Logistics and it looks like they have space that's leasable for storage and offices there. They did have a grand opening in October, and I don't know how many of you maybe had an opportunity to look at that building, but it's very impressive. Huge. Yeah, absolutely. Definitely quite an asset of the community. The 411 Northeast Street, that you may recall is the old school building, was completed and now occupied. If you may recall, there was the intention to have the alley act as primary access. Over concerns raised by the neighbors and by the owner about possible congestion. They did put a driveway out to E Street there on the north side. Given the cost were such much higher than anticipated, supply chain, all that stuff, they decided not to build that parking garage in the backyard. They may have a future date, but right now they just gonna leave it as it is.
No, Scott, they've turned that into short-term rentals, correct?
That's, I think their anticipated use is to have some of those being used as short-term rentals. I think the owner uses some, but yeah.
Yeah,
I didn't know it was all.
I think it's all short term.
I think it's all short-term rentals.
Right, I think they're gonna get licenses for all of them, but the owner indicated that he does use it as well, so.
Yeah, Sally and I have looked at those places and they're absolutely spectacular.
Yeah, he offered a tour back in April for city staff, and we went through there, and they're just beautiful building. He did an amazing job.
He did an amazing job and they're looking for between $500 and $600 a night for those properties.
How much?
Between $500 and $600 a night. Beyond my pay grade.
We did have a few development plan reviews last year. You may recall the Great Lakes Energy, the addition, the amendment of their plan to add that service drive between the two parking lots. The 211 Water Street plan was approved. The owners, upon further inspection of the interior, are getting into some things that weren't anticipated. I think that they may change their plans about that. They may not put the second story on the one as they were anticipating. So they're kind of holding off on that right now, and anticipate probably, later this year they'll come back to it and see what they do. And then the old Masonic at 220 North Lake, you may have seen that Genesis Church is actively moving on renovating that and bringing it up. They did get their facade approved by the design committee, and they got a sign permit the other day for their construction sign, and kind of shows the completed on the sign. So I expect that to be moving forward and probably be completed probably sometime this year. And then 100 North Lake Street, the Lost on Lake project, they're still struggling with coming up with the gap to fund the project, but they do now have their zoning permits, so they won't have to worry about their site plan being expired. That's the reason they had to come back before. So hopefully they can find a way to find the funding to make that project move, but right now I haven't heard of anything that's going to be able to do that. Bay Ridge Private Road, and you recall that ordinance was amended to allow for the more narrow pavement. They are looking at construction of the road this summer or spring or summer. I did talk to the paving contractor and he's getting specs out for that, so I expect that to be moving forward. A couple of administrative reviews for some smaller projects. Persistent Edge added some additional parking out there at their site. The one primary concern is the stormwater drainage on that. Calculations were done and they did have adequate retention on site to accommodate the additional pavement, so we were fine. And then 302 Southport is owned by Kirkby as well. And there was a little garage there. They tore that down and they're going to create another accessory unit there. That's in the central business district, so that's kind of under the family housing aspects of that ordinance. So hopefully it's like they're moving right along with that line. As I mentioned, the short-term rentals was the big effort over this past year. The city commission determined to establish them as the working committee for that, which I think is a wise choice. The system, the process, in my mind, worked extremely well. Folks had all the opportunity to input. The commission went through it methodically and deliberately, and I believe they came up with an ordinance that met their needs and will fit the community well. That ordinance was adopted on December 13th and became effective on December 28th. Working with Granicus, they have a system where they'll do mass mailing, and that's anticipated probably later next week. Basically informing everybody that's been identified to have a rental, that the ordinance has been adopted and what the licensing process is, and let them know how to go through that. So these next couple of months, we'll be working with all these owners to get them licensed, and probably before March, I think we'll hopefully have everything done, the majority of them. As you may recall, that ordinance had a ability for the city commission to establish a cap in the traditional residential district. The commission discussed that issue when they adopted the ordinance, but determined that they needed some additional information in regards to establishing that. And I anticipate in February, they'll bring this back on their agenda and review that again and see if they determine that a cap should be established at this point.
Scott, is there, well, the draft that I read was, that had an inspection type of verbiage within the draft that I read. And now I'm wondering, how are we planning on inspecting these?
The ordinance that was adopted did not require inspection. The city commission determined that was a level of that we didn't need. So there's an affidavit on the application that will certify a number of things that the owner says.
Okay, so it's self-certification.
Yes, so we'll work with that system, and a lot of other communities do that as well, and I haven't seen any issues that I think that inspections should be required. So I think it will.
And what about the number of renters per se, in terms of, is that going to be self?
The occupancy?
Yes.
Well, the ordinance does require that it has a maximum occupancy, and you have to verify how many people can stay in your home.
But that's self-certified.
But that's something that would be enforced if there was an issue. If we have a complaint and realize there's 30 people in a 2-bedroom house, then we have the ability to say, yeah, people.
Okay.
But if there's 11 people in a 10-person house, we're not going to come knocking on doors and saying, get your person. So it's basically a backstop that gives us the ability to address a problem.
Scott, the additional information that the city commission has requested, does that lead you to think that there would be a cap established, or just let it to the market to decide?
I think there are strong opinions on each side on the commission, so I really don't know.
In your feeling, do you feel that there will be room for growth over and above the amount of, like, you've established a certain amount of people already have short-term rentals in this district.
Right.
Do you anticipate that the cap, if there is a cap, would be higher than the number they have now?
Again, I think there's strong opinions on both. City commission, I can't really tell which way they would go, but in my opinion, if a cap is set, I think it would be advisable to set it at a high enough number that all those that have, or maybe a little additional growth, so you can have that. And then if a lower number is sought, establish that cap, and then through attrition, lower that number. So if a couple people no longer do it the next year, you can lower that cap down.
So just because the cap is higher doesn't mean we have to reach the cap. So, I mean, if we set it at 10% or 15% of the available residences and only 7% apply for a thing, doesn't mean we have to lower the number.
Right. Well, I'm
Yeah.
saying, if the commission says, we set it at 100, just use a random number. And, but their goal is they have 70.
Right.
So if they hit that 100, okay, you reach your cap, and then after a couple of years, a couple drop off.
Mhm.
So you can say, okay, the cap this year is 98. So you just kind of, you can ratchet
Yeah,
down.
okay.
So if that's their strategy, I'm just looking at it the way I would.
Mhm.
With all due respect, my guys certainly hope it would never reach 10%. Or 15%. Especially in the traditional residential.
Well, I was just reading some of the information regarding what the state would do if the state got involved.
Right.
And I think it was in the 10 to 15% range.
We were first we talked 30.
It was 30%.
Yeah. And, we're a long ways from that, and I hope we remain a long ways from that. But it would seem like we could logically allow for a small increase above what we have now.
That, to me, that's a philosophy, and it's gonna be based on the individual personality of the commission. What they think is too many or too few. So,
And then what is, I haven't read through it yet, but what was the punishment for not being, getting licensed and just continuing?
it's a civil infraction, and there's a fine schedule. So first offense is $100, second is $150, third is like $250, and each day is an offense. So, fines could ratchet up pretty quickly if you continue to operate without a license.
All right.
Each day is an offense.
And then is that per unit? Not per.
Well, I think,
Yeah, each unit will require a license.
No, you just said it's a civil infraction.
How many did we have in TRD? Was it 87?
89.
89. Yeah. So,
You made a motion at 105 and it was not passed. That helps you mind.
okay.
But it was a 2-2 vote, with George. Abstaining because he owns it.
Because he owns one, yeah, that makes sense.
The commission was asking for more information from other communities, in particular, what sort of caps that they put in.
I think they were looking more specifically like their residential district, like Charlevoix is kind of like us, where they have a specific district that's capped. And the condominiums aren't, they're regulated, but not capped. East Jordan has a similar kind of thing where, they have the lakefront district that's not capped, but their residential district is capped. Harbor Springs, I think, is gonna go that way. They had no cap on the entire town, and they just sent a moratorium in place to look at that, and so I'll see, which direction they go. So I'll be, providing that information the best I can to the commission to see if they can make some. elimination.
Sharp boys cap in the residential areas, I got rid of 35.
80, it's 80.
Where is this in Charlotte?
Yeah, now, and the TRD doesn't affect the lakefront properties.
No, no,
So, I mean, we can have a ton of lakefront properties, like I have several in my neighborhood that are lakefront properties that I know are used as short-term rentals at certain periods, and those would not be affected by the cap at all.
right, they're, and we really see no growth. I mean, like I kind of explained in the memo, it was right around 12, 13 for a whole year. I didn't, you know, the only appreciable growth that we've seen was in the TRD. And that was the logic for, you know, okay, that's gonna keep on growing like this, we do need to, you know, limit that somehow.
Yeah, I mean, it just makes too much sense to put in the water pump, especially in condos.
And well, the other, you know, you may recall, the whole impetus to this was housing, and was one of the objectives on the goals for housing, was to determine how short-term rentals affect housing availability. And with this information, we realized that, you know, there is a number and it is growing. So when you're looking at, you know, workforce housing, affordable housing, you know, that is the district that we're most concerned with. So that would make most sense to limit that.
Yeah.
And like, the commission set the fee, so the license structure is the initial license is valid for the remainder of the year that it's obtained, and then 2 additional calendar years. And then each fall, current license holders would have the opportunity to add additional year to that license term. So you kind of keep that kind of 3-year window rolling. And that was done in response to a concern from some of the owners that they make reservations 2 and 3 years out. So they want to have that assured that they had that availability of license so they could make those reservations. So that's the that way. The master plan review, and recall, there was a recommendation to this commission to do an update. So I anticipate approaching the city commission during budget time to request some funds and see if we can do that.
That's gonna be in February, right? So the budget making.
February to March, and then, yeah, so we meet with the commission usually in March sometime, we have a work session over there. The LIA, the Land Information Access Association, you remember their presentation earlier last year. They contacted me a couple weeks ago and indicated they want to set up that return visit. It looks like probably February or March, they'll be coming back, and indicated they have will be presenting some recommendations. So I haven't seen anything. I asked them to give them to me as soon as they could, so I could share that with you for that review and discussion. GIS development support, the planning department supports everybody in our GIS activities. I think we have a pretty robust system. City commission just awarded a contract to C2AE to further develop our system with the water assessment and mapping, and that is being done through a grant from the state. So that project's going to happen this year, and that will give us much better information on our water system. And so it's kind of the last piece of the puzzle, because with the SAW grant, we were able to map and identify and assess all of the stormwater system and sanitary systems. So now we can do the water system, we'll have all the cities infrastructure up to date.
Now, is that going to include I guess both the Hartbridge and Hartbridge Park, and I'm not sure what other developments, actually own their own water systems. Within the complexes themselves.
Any system that's connected to the city system is gonna be inventoried and assessed. They were explaining it at the city commission meeting that they have to do an assessment in regards to lead connections. So they have to physically dig up like a percentage of so many connections, just to do kind of a statistical analysis of how many there are in the city and then affect the plan. Okay, how can we improve all these things? So that's gonna be part of it. Where those are selected, I don't know. It's probably gonna be some kind of assessment that's done. But if it is connected to the city system, then they are at least inventory. I know that.
So what different water components are they looking at besides the lead connections? Are they looking at like hard water?
No, more of just the system itself and the physical infrastructure.
Make sure there's no lead pipes in there.
Right, that's, yeah, a big part of it to check for that. There is a lot of grants that we facilitate for the city, and also we act and as a fiduciary for other agencies like field greens. The city has applied the county rec grants for a couple of grants for them. The new Spark grant that's gone through the Commission, Department of Natural Resources. Application for the skate park was submitted for them. They should be hearing sometime this month whether they're successful. And then we continue to work for open space grants and other grants that help fund city projects. Board of commissions, Jim was nice enough to point out that I forgot to update the city commission or planning commission membership here. So I'll correct that.
What Carl was.
I will correct that.
Kind of forgettable, but.
No. So, and you may recall Patrick Kilkenny left us earlier last year, and he was replaced with Bonnie Shanatona.
Just quick, back to the ZBA, actually, I did want to point out that there are 3 vacancies on the ZBA. Pat Kevish had to step down for health reasons.
Just passed away.
We did,
Yeah.